Talking about what you're talking about.
Get real.
You all ready for this? Dun 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 dun. No.
Y'all, just stop. This is a sham. Welcome to DBL. Happy Wednesday, everybody.
Yes.
I'd like to bring the audience in just a bit because we switched up our seats in the DBL studio, and I'm now 10 feet away from where I used to be. I'm all thrown off.
It's awful. It's awful back there.
I'm still chewing my mint. My timing's not right.
It's
my
not
cup,
good.
it's a mess.
We're near each other. It's awful.
I'm right behind Tori, which does not, I mean, the mood is set when the day starts. But yeah,
So sorry.
It's a shake-up in here. All right, things are getting back to normal. That's actually a good sign. So, did you guys hear about this? Dave Chappelle was attacked by a man while performing at the Netflix is a Joke festival at the Hollywood Bowl last night. A fan shot this video of the attack, and you see the man rush the stage and violently tackle Dave, who falls backwards. After the attack, the man was chased off the stage, and then video shows security and others, security after the fact, gathered around him backstage. Chris Rock was also there, and guess what? He made a little joke. Let's listen.
Was that Will Smith?
Police have identified the attacker as 23-year-old, I'm not even going to say his name, I'm going to leave his name out of here, who was taken away on a stretcher. Police say he pointed a gun at Chappelle as he rushed him, but it turns out the gun
he did it with.
wasn't real, okay, but it did have a knife attached to it, so it is a weapon.
Yeah.
After all of that, Dave continued his act and even brought Jamie Foxx on stage to talk about it. Let's do a little recap, Jamie. Take a look.
Shout out to Jamie Foxx, by the way. Jamie, where you at? Whenever you're in trouble, Jamie Foxx would show up in a sheriff's hat. I thought that was part of the show. I don't know what the I've been doing this 35 years. I just stomped the backstage.
All right, there's a lot to tackle here. One, when Chappelle's performing, perhaps the best comedian alive today, he's going to bring a crew with him, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Al, being a comedian, what's up with the security? That's my first question before we dive into all this. At the Hollywood Bowl, let alone just comedy clubs in general.
I mean, I was telling Kabi before we came on the air, last night, this was obviously on the comedian group chat. Last thing I got was a text from my buddy, and he sent me this video. And my first thought was like, where was security? Because the Hollywood Bowl obviously is used to having super A-list stars there. So I was just really surprised. Those are professionals. When you go to a comedy club, I love comedy clubs.
I'm there.
Even theaters.
Yeah.
But theater has like older folks working there. There's a sweet old lady getting you to the green room.
You're not bum rushing anybody during Wicked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're not really built for that. But maybe they should be, because I've had somebody come on stage with me. I've had comic friends that have had to go back to the city that they performed in to testify against people that have attacked them. Think about the elements we're talking about here. Alcohol, provocative language, hot button issues, and somebody that's sometimes this is weird. Sometimes people get so drunk at comedy shows that they forget where they are and they think that you're talking right to them. And people will just start, a lot of times when people yell things at the stage, they forget they're at a show and they're like, hey buddy, don't say that. And they like think that they're at like a Red Lobster or something. They're like that drunk. So this has happened hundreds of times.
Yeah.
I think we are just seeing it, and we're way more aware of it now.
I think you can't call this out without calling out the Chris Rock Will Smith slap. I think at some point, I think I spilled coffee on that. I'm so sorry.
No, my light was on, like I'm 40 years old.
Yes.
Focus. Yeah, I think the Chris Rock Will Smith thing, or I don't know what you call it. Assault.
Yes.
This, to me, feels copycat. Now, whether it be from someone who doesn't like Dave Chappelle or someone trying to get attention, I don't know if I would have seen this happen at the Hollywood Bowl had we not seen that at the Oscars. So, to your point, security should have been at the stage like this. But to me, this is a deviation from normal hecklers. This is like A-list stars at an A-list place, and now we're still getting it. Does it read to anyone Chris Rock, Will Smith?
I didn't think that at all. I think that people have been storming the stage for quite
Hollywood
some
Bowl
time.
like that?
I think people have just been storming stages. I'm sorry, like, I don't trust anybody in any situation. I don't understand how the security was so lax. I'm not even famous, and I definitely have attended events in the past with armed security, absolutely, that I pay for myself. Because things like people they say things, they do things, like you feel like, you know, and then you also want to be in a space as anyone who's on stage where you aren't thinking about your safety. You're thinking about what you're being paid to do. So yes, I have absolutely done that. And I really would suggest anybody who's in the situation where people know where you're going to be, have that same thing. Off-duty police officers are a great place to start. But this is ridiculous. And that arm, sorry for that man. Because honestly, like, he deserved to be jacked up. I do not condone violence, but it is so clear to me that some people have never had their butts beat and they really need to see how it feels.
Yeah.
It's really terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you toward that it opened the door to Will Smith thing, but I also think social media, because in some small world, this man is now have people online cheering for him for what he did.
I don't even know if it'd be that small.
Yeah, you're right, but we always talk about this, Al, and I think, I don't know, I think the internet has a lot to do with it.
Absolutely, it's definitely
the accessibility
radicalizing.
of it.
Because you're watching the same thing over and over again. I know we got to move on, but I will say this. My partner, Merritt, said that I read people better than anybody she's ever met. And that's not a humble brag. It's because my entire career, every single night, every single show, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 10:30, before show, after show, when people are coming up and saying, hey, when they're coming towards me, I don't know if this woman in this green dress had a great time or had a terrible time. If she's going to throw a drink in my face or she wants to take a picture.
You're on guard always.
And so it's not really on guard. I need to evaluate in 2 seconds what this person is doing because it happens that often. So please, if you see something brewing, you hear somebody getting agitated, shut it down, please, before something bad like this happens.
Absolutely. All right, let's get this story. And Kim Kardashian is facing backlash over wearing Marilyn Monroe's iconic dress to the Met Gala. That was my favorite part of the whole night. Kim borrowed the dress from Ripley's Believe It or Not. Kim said she had to lose 16 pounds in 3 weeks in order to fit into the gown without alterations. But a fashion history professor, that's a thing? Does he have a business card?
Fashion history, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Is criticizing the move. Tori's brother, apparently. Saying wearing the dress was, quote, irresponsible and unnecessary, and that such an iconic piece of American history should not be put at risk just for an ego boost and a photo op. But the head of Marilyn's estate says he believes Marilyn would have been thrilled to see Kim rocking that gown at the Met Gala.
1,000,000%. If you know anything about Marilyn Monroe, she loved the camera, she loved fashion, she loved the it girl that she was. She transformed. Her name isn't even Marilyn Monroe. She transformed herself. I think this art fashion history professor missed the mark on this one to me because that was a pop culture moment in fashion that was a positive. I think it was a really cool moment to see.
Do you think there's anybody that would have been off limits, like any kind of dress? Like, let's say it was like Jackie Kennedy or somebody like that.
I mean, this one's close. This is,
I mean, it's
the mistress of.
Yeah, I know. Maybe that's why I thought about it.
Alleged, yeah.
And that night, she certainly made it clear when she sang.
I mean, this is a really, really iconic dress when it comes to American history.
Yeah.
So this professor, a little quacky in my eyes. A little quacky.
Quacky.
I agree with
nutty
you.
professor.
He sounds a little nutty to me. He doesn't know.
I agree with Jeff.
I have no problem with this, but I feel everyone's open to stating their opinion. Clearly, we're on the show, so hey.
And Ripley's, believe it or not, we actually have a video. They were so thrilled with Kim Kardashian wearing a dress that they gave her a lock of Marilyn Monroe's hair.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
And Kim started crying. That's how much Kim idolizes Marilyn. It's like not like she's not a
look,
fan.
here's the video. This is actual like footage.
Yeah, she starts getting like really emotional.
Listen.
You can clone her.
That's awesome. Oh my god, I'm literally going to do some crazy voodoo that I
Now, I don't want to sound quacky here, but in the future, could you somehow take this DNA and make a Marilyn Monroe?
What happened in Jurassic Park? The amber, right? The mosquito.
Life finds a way.
Life finds a way.
What's going on? We're on the same page. We move next to each other. We're becoming the same person. Oh my God. We're going to talk about politics the rest of the show. Coming up on DBL, our interview with Lindsey Vonn. She tells us what life is like after retirement. And Meg Ryan is making a return to rom-com after 13 years out of the game. And before we go to break, Dolly Parton was officially inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Congrats. Even though she didn't even want it. She's in. She's in. Congrats, Dolly.
You're looking like that in your high heel boots and your painted old jeans, all decked out like a cowgirl's dream. Waltzing right in, you're looking like that. Why'd you come in? You're looking like that.
Closed captioning provided by
Daily Blast Live is always timely, always focused, always ready, always on cue. This May, Don't miss a day. DBL is all new every day.
Want to know something really cool about 9 to 5? She wrote the song Working 9 to 5, and she was going up and down the hallway of the set, and she was trying to think of what typewriters and things like 9 to 5 women, and she has big long acrylics. You know the story. Of course I do. And she started going like this, and then she started, oh, that sounds kind of like a typewriter. And if you listen to the beginning of 9 to 5, it's Dolly's acrylic nails, and they're listed as an instrument. She stars it with her nails. So she also did it with someone else. She does that. I think she did it with.
I'm pretty sure that's how she started with "I Will Always Love You" too. It was something with her nails.
Yeah,
right
so
after. I think she wrote it the same day.
She wrote "I Will Always Love You" and Jolene in the same afternoon.
Do you know what's crazy? Is like
is that not insane?
Jolene has an EDM remix that I used to have on my cardio
like
workout
Jolene.
It's not that. It's not that. Like yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's a great song.
Really good.
It brought me to the original Dolly Parton because I didn't know I hadn't heard that song. So like yeah, it's cool.
And she wrote "I Will Always Love You" because her manager kept saying, "You can't write just a love song. You're a country girl. You got to write these country songs." So she was like, "I'll write the simplest, dumbest song." And she just wrote the lyrics, "I will always love you" over and over and over again. And then she goes, "And Whitney made me a bazillionaire." Yeah, her documentary is really top notch. Really, really interesting.
I like the way she's had her career because she's done so much cool stuff. And she doesn't talk about it.
Like her imagination library, she's given over 100 million books away.
Right.
You can go online if you have a kid from 0 to 5, and she'll give them books every month for free for 5 years of their life.
I think a lot of the proceeds from Dolly World go to HBCUs.
Yeah,
she set that up.
Wish I had $1 million. Hot dog. Little Red Lobster talking. I'm on board.
A lot of Red Lobster.
I'm on board.
Going after this.
Yes, Meg, welcome back. Meg Ryan is making a return to rom-com. Meg was known, of course, for hits like You Got Mail and Sleepless in Seattle with Tom Hanks, but hasn't been in a rom-com in 13 years. Now she's set to star and direct in What Happens Later with David Duchovny about a former couple who reunites after being snowed in at an airport.
Romantic.
Yeah. It's hard to find a room, too, after you get snowed in.
Oh, it's the worst.
I'm just saying. Last month, Julia Roberts revealed she would be starring in her first rom-com in about 20 years with George Clooney. So some of these old stars making a return to rom-com, and I'm kind of liking it.
Yes, you're going to hear this until it finally premieres, but the Best Man series is coming back as an actual series, which is like especially for rom-coms in black comedy sphere, or stories, is like a huge thing. Nice. So I think that it really is.
Is it going to have the original players?
Yes, Taye Diggs was on. He was talking about it. Everybody's been talking about it. Malcolm Lee, it's amazing. So I really think that we're ready for it. Everything has been so heavy.
Yeah.
Erica.
We need light.
So
we need
heavy.
light.
We need is love.
Taye Diggs is on my top 5 most handsome men.
He is just
I love Taye Diggs
superbly good looking.
But
he is. And he's a great
Erica
guy.
kind of hit it on the head. And I thought it was really interesting. I think that the society kind of dictates what movies are being made at what times. And if you look at what's been made and what was happening around the time 9/11 happened, and then what movies we saw after that. Now I think things are not, there's a lot of strife in the country, a lot of issues, COVID, everybody's stressed out. And I think people just want to see 2 familiar faces.
Yeah, meet cute. Yeah.
Fall in love on a familiar storyline.
Totally.
And just zone out, almost like a Hallmark movie, but in the movie theater.
Yeah.
And I think people are here for it, and they want to see familiar faces, not even risk it with some new faces.
How about this familiar face? Because I know you're behind the story. We're getting a first look at the Weird Al biopic starring Daniel Radcliffe. Let's take a look real quick.
Like a surgeon, cutting for the very first time. Like a surgeon.
Anyone got an accordion?
So here's the real Daniel next to Weird Al, who co-wrote the script. Now in true Weird Al fashion, the biopic is set to be a parody about his life, so it's not real. The movie also recreated Weird Al's famous parody, Like a Surgeon, as we just saw. Tori, familiar face, feel good?
Yeah, I mean, Weird Al, who's like, I hate Weird Al Yankovic.
At the break, you just said that.
No, I don't like, now that I know it's a parody, that makes me feel more comfortable. It felt a little caricature.
Gotcha.
The wig seemed a little Halloween costumey. Now I know it's a parody, I'm feeling better. I also think it's weird to have a Brit play a super, like, American person, but his accent sounded great, so I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'm like, you've never seen The Wire. Those are all.
I know.
Like, who isn't British right now?
Everybody.
They all are.
amazing.
By the way, there's a new show on HBO that's about a police officer in Baltimore. And I watched the first episode yesterday, and I thought about you because that's your favorite
We Run
show.
the City?
We Run the City, yeah.
Yeah.
This is totally off topic and ad-lib, but
yeah, she brought up something interesting. Yeah,
and you love The Wire. It's your favorite show of all time.
Of all time.
Yeah, so maybe you
Absolutely.
should check it out. I thought about you when I watched the first episode.
Yeah.
Very, very similar stuff.
I like it.
All right, that was a weird break in the conversation.
But you should watch The
Hey,
Wire.
we could all agree Tate Diggs is a good-looking man.
So good.
That's coming up on We're going to close every show with that. Our interview with champion ski racer Lindsey Vonn. We'll find out the most unique prize she won after a race.
Roe versus Wade decision back in 1973 came down to right to privacy, which usually rests on two things: due process rights and the 14th Amendment, which guarantees the constitutional right to life, liberty, and property. But this draft says the right to an abortion is not considered an implied constitutional right. So let's verify. What other decisions does the 14th Amendment impact? Our sources are Caroline Fredrickson, a Georgetown law professor, and Robert Peck, a constitutional law expert.
There's an interesting philosophical decision that's embodied in this opinion, and that is, to what extent are rights implied by the Constitution? This opinion asserts that abortion is not one of those implied rights.
There are other subsequent decisions dealing with equal marriage, gay marriage, and so forth that rest on the same foundation.
The idea of an implied right to privacy is the foundation of these other big decisions, like Obergefell versus Hodges, the case that legalized gay marriage, and Loving versus Virginia, the case that legalized interracial marriage, as well as Griswold versus Connecticut, which affords married couples the constitutional right to buy and use contraceptives, and Lawrence versus Texas, which made same-sex sexual activity legal in 2003. As for whether those precedents are at risk, it's hard to say.
It basically is an invitation to those who oppose those decisions to come back to the Supreme Court, frame your arguments the same way that this case, the opinion in this case was framed, and then see if you can get the same result.
Justice Samuel Alito, author of the draft opinion, argues the abortion issue is, quote, critically different from any other right that this court has held to fall within the 14th Amendment's protection of liberty.
Welcome back. She's the most decorated female ski racer of all time, and earlier we caught up with Lindsey Vonn to hear about what made her the best. Let's take a look.
Wow, we got Lindsey Vonn here, you guys. Welcome to DBL.
Hi. You've won countless competitions and awards, but we found out one of your prizes was an actual, real, living cow.
Yes.
So you have to tell the story. How did this happen, and do you still have it?
So yeah, it was a crazy race. I actually saw the cow in the finish, and I was like, I want to win today just so I get this cow.
Yes.
And then it was kind of like a promotional thing, and they were like, we want to give you a check and give us the cow back. And I said, no, you told me I could keep the cow. So I kept the cow, negotiated for the cow. And I actually have like 6, 7 cows, maybe more. I've got quite the herd.
What?
That's
oh my gosh.
really cool.
My son Miles is obsessed with cows. We had a cow birthday party. All he says is cow, even though he can say other words. It's cow this, cow that. Wow, that is so cool. You're like the coolest person ever.
Seriously. You won some gold medals, but cow, pro cow.
Yeah, as long as I got the cows, I'm good.
But she has a herd.
There you go.
Okay.
It's interesting because I was thinking about this morning when I saw that we were going to be able to interview you, and I've seen some documentaries on skiing and how dangerous it is, how many injuries you guys rack up. But people think about football players as being tough and UFC fighters being tough, but you guys really hurt yourself a lot. So as a pro skier, how were you always able to come back and just compete? And what was the hardest injury that you dealt with?
I've had quite a few injuries over the course of my career. I think the hardest was when I had a spiral fracture of my humerus because I lost all feeling in my hand. Like I couldn't use my hand at all. I couldn't feed myself. I couldn't write. I literally couldn't hold a pencil. So that actually, scared me more than blowing my knee out. But thankfully I can use my hand now. Everything works well, and just have quite a bit of knee pain, but I think that's, everyone pays a price for success, and that's the price I paid, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
But that speaks to your perseverance. It speaks to why you're such a champion on and off the slope. So to that point, let's talk about your new book, Rise, which is incredible, everybody. Why did you decide to write this memoir right now?
It took about 1.5 years. I wrote it, and I was just in a really interesting state of mind. I was actually kind of resentful that I was retiring. I didn't want to retire. I was really forced to because my body had gone through too many injuries, too many surgeries. And so I actually scrapped that entire book that I wrote that I spent 1.5 years on. I started over. Wow. And I was in a much better place. I'm really happy now. I am accepting of the fact that I'm retired. I'm very busy and I'm happy. And I think that is reflected in the book, and I really wanted it to be something that was inspiring, where sharing my stories of adversity would help others overcome their own adversities.
And Lindsey, something you wrote about in the book about how hard it was coping with life after retirement. I played football in college, but such a small level. It wasn't anywhere going pro, but it was like a piece of me died when I stopped playing. So why did you end up talking to a psychologist? Was it that detrimental to you after retiring that it was like something part of you was gone?
Yeah, I totally agree entirely. It's really, you're going through the stages of mourning where you're angry, you're sad, you're frustrated. There's so many feelings. And, I thought, well, I've been through so much in my life. I can handle this. This is no problem. But it was, I think, the hardest thing that I've had to overcome is kind of making that next step forward and turning the page on this next chapter of life. I know who I am. I know where I want to go. I'm not just a ski racer. I'm Lindsey, and I'm very happy with that.
I have to ask before we go, when you are casually skiing, are people like, oh my gosh, that's Lindsey Vonn? I can't imagine being on the slopes and seeing you go right by.
Usually it's, they don't recognize me until I've passed them. They're kind of like, who is that? And then I fly by and they're like, oh, shoot, I think that's, and I'm like, yep, that's me.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Okay, so Lindsey, thank you so much for chatting with us. To our readers out there, if you need some inspiration, trust me, do not forget to read her memoir, Rise, My Story, available now. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, Lindsey.
Cool. Thanks for talking to us.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by...
Hours after Elon Musk announced he was buying Twitter in a $44 billion deal, some social media users began wondering what happened to a charitable deal that Musk offered. A post by podcast host Brian Tyler Cohen with more than 500,000 likes claims Musk told the UN that he would donate $6 billion to help end world hunger, but he never delivered. So let's verify. Did Elon Musk tweet that he would donate $6 billion to the UN World Food Program to fight world hunger? Our sources are the UN's World Food Program, tweets from Elon Musk, and reply tweets by David Beasley, the chief of the WFP. The controversy started on October 31st, 2021, when CNN published a story that claimed 2% of Musk's wealth would solve world hunger and cited the WFP. Musk responded by challenging the WFP to explain how $6 billion would help solve world hunger and offered to sell Tesla stock to do it. Beasley replied to clarify that the money could help save 42 million people on the brink of starvation and not completely solve world hunger. The two men exchanged some tweets before Musk asked for a detailed accounting of the WFP's spending. The WFP followed through 2 weeks later, and Beasley tagged Musk in a tweet with a link to the plan, but the billionaire never responded. So, yes, Elon Musk did tweet that he would donate $6 billion to the UN World Food Program to fight world hunger. A filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission shows Musk donated nearly $6 billion worth of Tesla stock a few days after the WFP published its plan. However, it's not known where that money went because the WFP told Fortune it has yet to receive a donation from Musk. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
The question we're looking at today is climate change increasing the pollen count? Our source is Dr. Sandra Hong with the Cleveland Clinic, the CDC, a study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science Journal, and a study featured in Nature Communications. According to the CDC, the changing climate has caused shifts in precipitation patterns, more frost-free days, warmer seasonal air temperatures, and more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. These changes can affect when the pollen season starts and ends, how much pollen plants create, and how much pollen is in the air.
The human-caused climate change is really changing our pollen seasons, so it's lengthening the number of days that we can have pollen allergies. And in addition to it, it has been increasing pollen counts. They found that it seems to be linked to increased temperatures.
According to the study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science Journal, the pollen season has lengthened by 20 days over the past 3 decades. Pollen concentrations increased by 21%, one of the most affected places in the Southeast. And it's only getting worse. According to the study featured in Nature Communications, pollen season could end up starting as much as 40 days earlier and last about 15 days longer than it does today. Pollen levels could also triple in some parts of the United States. So we can verify that, yes, climate change is increasing the pollen count. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
Tori, your dress fits right in with this new integration. We all know how it goes. The seasons are changing. It's getting warmer. Season 1 dress. And you want some new spring and summer gear, but your closet is already packed with clothes from season 1. Well, we got an app that's going to solve your problems, and it's called Vinted. Vinted is a secondhand fashion focus app where you can buy and sell pre-loved fashion. Take a photo, write it up. Hey, I wore this in season 1. Detailed description, set the price you want, and upload. There are no hidden selling fees, so the price you set is the price you're going to make. And if you're the buyer, you just search using filters like brand, color, DBL, or even condition. And when you finally find that dream piece, you pay through the app. The best part is to ensure your money is safe. The seller doesn't get paid until you receive the item, and make sure it's okay. And get this, Vinted is free to download, so if you don't wear it, sell it. It's a responsible way to be eco-friendly and a good way to consume clothes. What do you guys think? Tori, I didn't even notice you were wearing that, but it's like we have this.
Do you guys all remember this?
I do.
Season 1.
Season 1.
And it's made out of like scuba gear.
Yeah.
Polyurethane.
That's scuba gear. It's like
It is scuba gear. It feels like that.
That brings back so many memories. And speaking of memories,
before we go, we'd like to say may the 4th be with you. Today, May 4th, marks a celebration of all things Star Wars. If you don't know, it comes from that famous Star Wars phrase, may the Force be with you. DBL good we are.
Was that Yoda?
I told you it wasn't going to work. Okay. I knew that wasn't going to work. We'll be back tomorrow.
Nailed it.